Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Student Doctor Network and the United States Navy, and we're going to be talking today about options that you have to help pay for your medical school education. My name is Laura Turner. I'm the Executive Director of the Health Professional Student Association, which is the publisher of the Student Doctor Network. And with me, I have Dr. Vega, and I can let him introduce himself.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jaime Vega, and I am a commander in the Navy, part of the Medical Corps.
Great, thank you. Well, before we dig into the Navy scholarship options, we'll go ahead and do a quick walkthrough of some of the things that the Student Doctor Network has to offer. So let me go ahead and see if I can get this. There we go, add it in. Okay, so just want to give people a couple of updates or items that you can use from the Student Doctor Network to help you plan your journey to medical school. One that is important for this discussion is our medical school application cost calculator. And this is a tool that we created to let people estimate how much it would cost them to apply to medical school. Everybody knows that medical school is expensive, but it is important for folks to know that it is also expensive just to apply to medical school. And so this allows you to estimate what those costs are going to be and give yourself a way to budget for those expenses. Another item I want to highlight is, of course, what most people know Student Doctor Network for, which is the Student Doctor Network Forums community. It's a peer support community. We have many people who are going through the same things that you're going through as far as applications are concerned. We also have a large number of experts who volunteer their time to answer questions for students on subjects like, does this sound good for my personal statement? Or here's my stats. What is a good school list for me? So it's a great resource, and I encourage you to go and check it out. And then you can get your questions answered. Okay, so that's what I have from the Student Doctor Network. And now we're going to switch over to Dr. Vega, who's going to talk about some of the different Navy medical scholarships that are available for students who are interested in pursuing a career both as a physician and as a military officer. So with that, I will turn it over to him.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I'm going to talk about a number of the scholarship programs that Navy has. I myself was the beneficiary of the Health Profession Scholarship Program. I came in on a 4-year scholarship, and I went to an osteopathic medical school, Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And to your point, ma'am, med school is very expensive. And thankfully, because of the Navy, I didn't really have to pay to go to PCOM, because PCOM is super expensive. It's probably a lot more expensive now, but my HPSP scholarship helped me finance my medical education. And as a result, I was able to leave medical school with very little debt, most of it carried over from undergrad. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to talk about the HPSP program, another program called the Health Services Collegiate Program, another one called Financial Assistance Program, Training and Medical Specialties Program, and then the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences, what some people call USUHS or USU. All right, the advantages, talking about money, lower student debt. You get 2 decades of career sponsorship. You avoid some of the private practice costs that can be presented when you start up your own practice on the back end, because you're working for the Navy, and the malpractice insurance that private sector physicians have, it's covered through the Navy. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the program I came in under. The HPSP Health Profession Scholarship Program. with this program, you join as a Naval Reserve officer. So I was an ensign, which is the lowest commissioned officer rank that you can have. So you join as a Naval Reserve officer to receive the scholarship for medical school, and then you become active duty the minute you graduate. So you get your degree. There's somebody there from the Navy. You go to another room. They swear you in, and you're active duty military, and you start working for the Navy. The benefits of this program is that there's a $20,000 sign-on bonus. Now that bonus is new. It's relatively new. I did not benefit from that, but it would have been sweet to graduate college and get 20 grand up front. The other benefit to the scholarship is you get full paid tuition. There's 2 years, 3 years, and 4-year scholarships available. I came in under a 4-year scholarship, and then they reimburse you for all your costs associated with your requirements to attend medical school. So student fees, books, equipment fees, and that it doesn't include room and board. So like I went to an osteopathic school, and one of the things that we had to get was an exam table. That exam table back then was about $500. And so I bought one. I submitted the receipt to my program manager, and then I got reimbursed for that table. Another thing that was required of me was I was required to have health insurance. And that was something new for me because I didn't have health insurance in college, but the Navy required, or PCOM required, that I have health insurance. So I had to get Blue Cross Blue Shield while I was living in Philadelphia, and the Navy paid for that as well. So I think some schools require you to have like a laptop. So you can submit that as a fee. Your doctor bag, your reflex hammers, things like that, odds and incidentals, those are covered under required fees. And then all your books. If the book is required for a class, you buy the book, you submit your receipt, the program manager reimburses you on the back end. So eligibility for this program, you got to be a U.S. citizen, you got to be physically qualified, and you got to be accepted and enrolled into a medical school that's accredited by the American Medical Association or the American Osteopathic Association here in the U.S. or in Puerto Rico. You got to have an MCAT score that's. Hang on one second. You got to have an MCAT score that's. The picture's in the way. Sorry about that. Ma'am, can we move that photo of my there we go. You got to have an MCAT score that's a minimum of 500, and you got to have a cumulative GPA of 3.2 or higher. Next slide, please. All right. So this next program is the Health Services Collegiate Program, or HSCP. With this program, you enlist in collegiate status as a non-commissioned officer with full pay and benefits. You receive a commission, and you fulfill your active duty obligation upon the completion of medical school. The benefits of this program are you can earn up to $50,000 per year while you're in school with an opportunity for promotion. You get full medical and dental benefits. You're eligible for up to $400,000 in life insurance, and you get up to 30 days of annual leave. Eligibility for this one, you got to be a U.S. citizen, you got to be physically qualified, you got to be accepted and enrolled to a school of medicine accredited by the AMA or the AOA located in the U.S. or Puerto Rico. You got to have a minimum MCAT score of 500 and a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. All right, next slide, please. All right, so this program is a financial assistance program. For this one here, you join as a Naval Reserve officer while completing residency and fellowship training in critical medical specialties. So surgery, orthopedics, family practice, and you get your active duty commission upon graduation of from school. The benefits here for financial assistance program, you get a $45,000 a year annual grant. You can be eligible for a $2,608 monthly stipend. They reimburse all your fees and books and equipment. you're eligible for a retention bonus upon completion of the financial assistance program. For this one here, you got to be a U.S. citizen. You got to be graduated as an MD or a DO from an institution accredited by the AMA or the AOA. You got to get your licensure to practice medicine, surgery, or osteopathy in the state where you're undergoing training. And then you have to be accepted to an AMA or an AOA approved GME program. And you got to enter the Navy prior to your 42nd birthday. Waivers can be considered. And I've seen those considered as well for like orthopedic specialties or surgical specialties, trauma, things like that. All right, the next one here is training and medical specialty, or TMS. So for this one, you have to join and remain a Naval Reserve officer while completing residency or fellowship listed on the DoD Critical Wartime Skills List. The benefits of this, you can be eligible for a monthly stipend of $2,600. You may be eligible to receive up to $250,000 in student loan repayment. You can be eligible for up to $400,000 in life insurance, and you're provided with low-cost medical and dental benefit plans. Eligibility for this, you got to be a U.S. citizen, and you must be a categorical match into an accredited residency or fellowship program. And you have to have completed your training prior to your 42nd birthday, but I've seen waivers considered as well for this program. Next slide, please. Okay, the next one here is USUHS, the Uniformed Services University, or USUHS. This is a medical school, and for this one here, you join as an officer in the Navy, Army, Air Force, or Public Health Service. And while you're attending medical school, you receive a salary while you're attending. It's a 7-year active duty service obligation upon completion of your specialty residency training. So you attend school for 4 years, you do your residency, and then you start your obligation, and that's 7 years. So it's 4 years of medical school, 7 years of an obligation on the back end. So the benefits here, there's no tuition to attend. So you go to school, and there's no charge to you. You can go on your clinical rotations all over the country, wherever the Department of Defense has medical treatment facilities. So you can go to Tripler Army Medical Center in Hawaii. You can go to Naval Medical Center here in Balboa, here in San Diego. You can go to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. So those are some spots that you can go to for your clinical rotations while you're in this program. The school itself is located in Bethesda, Maryland. All right. So eligibility for this program, or I'm sorry, the benefits. So yeah, there's no tuition. The rotations are all over the country, and you get paid in allowances up to $70,000 or more, depending on what the allowances are. But you get paid while you're in school as an active duty junior officer. I believe the rank for the Navy is ensign, so 01. So for eligibility for USUHS, you got to be a U.S. citizen. You got to be physically qualified. You must be at least 18 years old at the time of matriculation, but no older than 36 years old as of June 30th in the year of matriculation. Minimum MCAT scores must be 496, and your mean MCAT score needs to be between 508 and 509. You got to have a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher and a mean GPA of 3.6. And you can visit their website, usuhs.edu, for more information. All right, so at this point, I want to open it up for questioning.
Great. Well, I appreciate you giving that overview of the numerous programs
Of
that
course.
are available. I'd like to invite folks who are watching. You can put in your comments either on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll be able to answer those questions as they come in. One question I have is, I know that the military has a different match process for physicians when they graduate. So if you're an active duty military or you're at USUHS, you go through the military match. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can you did you go through that? Can you speak a little bit to
I
that
did. I did.
process?
Yeah, and in the Navy, what happened? So when I was coming through the program, it wasn't as the Army had its own match, the Air Force had its own match, the Navy had its own match. It's a lot more joint these days. But when I came in through the service, you apply for your internship, and then when you're in the program, when you're in your internship program, in the fall of your internship year, then you apply for the residency part of your training. Yeah, so it's almost like two separate matches.
Okay, so you have that transitional internship year, and then you have the residency that's more specific
Yes.
to your
Yeah.
specialty after that. Okay, okay. Um, and as far as practice locations, what are some of the places that you've practiced as a physician with the Navy, and what are some of the different locations you've been able to serve?
Great question. So I did my internship in internal medicine. Back then, it was Bethesda Naval Medical Center.
Okay.
Now it's Walter Reed National Military Medical Center at Bethesda. Same location, right there in Bethesda, Maryland. But I did my internship training there, and then I stopped my training for several years. I was a general practitioner with a group of Marines out of Camp Pendleton here in California. It's basically northern San Diego County. So I was a general medical officer, basically general practice. I did that for 3 years. I came back and I did a residency in occupational medicine right there at USU, and I did a master's program while I was in residency, and then my clinical rotations I did at Walter Reed Bethesda there in Bethesda, Maryland.
So have you had any, do you, as part of the Navy, I assume you go out on ships as well,
Yeah.
or
So
so can you speak about that a little bit?
I'd love to. So when I was with the Marine Corps, we deployed to Iraq. This was in 2007. So I was deployed to Iraq for about 7 months. We came back. We were home stateside for about 6 months, and we did some training for another deployment. And we were on ships in the Middle East, basically just providing what the Navy calls a forward presence in the Persian Gulf. When I was done with that training and I came back to do my residency training, I was in the DC area for my residency training. But then when I completed my training, I served as a board certified occupational medicine physician in Lemoore, California, here in the Central Valley, to support an air base. And currently, right now, I'm the occupational medicine provider for the Navy's Military Sea Lift Command here in San Diego. And the Sea Lift Command provides logistical support to the Navy. So we run the ships that basically supply all of the warships and the submarines that are out to sea. So if a ship needs food while it's out to sea, or fuel, or medicine, anything that it could possibly need while it's out to sea, we will go out to sea to supply that ship or submarine, and then our ships will come back and resupply so that our ships can stay out there and do what needs to get done.
Okay, so that's an important support function, it
Yes.
sounds like.
Yes. Yeah, and that support function happens all over the world. So I've got a counterpart. He helps out with the ships out in Virginia and Portsmouth. So with me here and my partner out in Norfolk, it's the Atlantic area and then the Pacific area.
Okay. Again, I wanted to reiterate, if you have questions, please feel free to drop those into the comments on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll get those questions answered. I guess, go ahead.
One thing I did want to mention is that the stipend for the health professions scholarship program, the monthly stipend just went up. I don't know the exact numerical value, but I have it. I got a message that it would be increased from what it currently is now for the upcoming school year.
Okay, yeah, so that's something that probably is a congressional, it
Yes.
gets addressed in the congressional
Yeah.
budgets. So
Yeah, and they adjust it, for inflation, things like that. I think when I was in med school, and I was getting my monthly stipend, you get paid every 2 weeks, and I think back then it was like $425. It's now it's like up to 1,000 per month
oh
or a little
wow.
more. Yeah, it's a lot more. And if you look at the for HPSP, if you think about the bonus that you get up front, the $20,000, it's a nice change.
And are there bonuses available? Like, are there retention bonuses if you decide if this is something you want to make a career out of, or how common is it for people to make a full career and stay in the Navy or other
Ooh.
service?
So I would say it's fairly common. I myself have been in the Navy now 18 years. And depending on the specialty, there are different bonuses to retain you. There's like a board certified pay. So once you pass your boards, um, you get a bonus there. That's like $500 a month. There, so I get specialty pay. So for me in the public health specialties, I get about $50,000 a year for my specialty to be in the Navy. And depending on there's also like medical corp pay that's like $25,000 on top of that. So depending on your specialty and the amount of years that you sign up for to be to stay on with the Navy, it can add up to anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 a year, in addition to what you're already making.
Okay, so that sounds like it would be one of the pros, getting some
Yes,
uh,
yes.
get the additional bonus pays. What would you say are some of the pros and cons? What are things that someone who's considering a career as a physician with the Navy or potentially another service, what should they be thinking about?
So I think I think it's totally okay to say, I'm going to join the Navy because I need the money to pay for school. A lot of folks are like, well, I don't want to, I'm embarrassed to say that. Like, I think that's a legitimate reason. If finances are a concern, and you're eligible for the Navy scholarship program, whether it's HPSP or the other ones, I think it's totally okay to say, you know what, I, I want the money. So that's a big pro. The other pro is, you've got clinical rotations all over the country. You've got accredited programs that are running right now, and you're going to get a nice skill set with evidence-based medicine as the backdrop for your training, and then you're going to be able to use it in a nice in an operational setting, whether it's a boat or an aircraft carrier or with the Marine Corps or at a Navy hospital. You're going to be able to use your skills and serve your country while in uniform. And so I think those are nice pros. The cons, if you get deployed, there's a period of time where you could be away from your family, 7 months, 8 months, just depending on the ship and the deployment that you're on. So the big con is, you do run the risk of getting deployed and being separated from your family. I think another big pro is health insurance. So I talked about not thinking about health insurance as a young adult. And when I came into the Navy as a very junior lieutenant, you graduate from med school, you're commissioned as an O3. So in the Navy, that's the rank of lieutenant. And one of the things that I didn't think about was, health insurance for me, and then maybe my partner, my children, because I wasn't thinking that way. I was 25 years old. But in the Navy, in the Army, in the Air Force, when you sign up, you get free health insurance for yourself, but also for your partner and your dependents. So if you have children, they get free health insurance as well. So my wife had a baby about 18 months ago, and our health insurance, TRICARE, they covered that. So I didn't have to pay out of pocket. They covered the deductibles. They covered all of that because I was a member of the U.S. Navy. So a big pro is health insurance. So if you're, you get married, you have a partner, you have children, excuse me, let's say there's a complication with the pregnancy, or the child is born with like a genetic disorder, TRICARE will pay for those medical bills so that you don't go broke paying for them yourself. So a big pro is the health insurance part of it.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
One thing I do want to talk about, it could be a pro, it could be a con, depending on how you see it. I like to travel. I like to move around a lot. And the punchline, the marketing line for the Navy is join the Navy, see the world. So I've lived in Bethesda, Maryland. I've lived in San Juan Capistrano, California. I've lived in Lemoore, California. I've lived in San Diego, California. I've got friends who've lived in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. I've got friends right now who live in Bremerton, Washington. My former boss, he just moved to Rota, Spain, so he's working there. I've got friends that they live in Okinawa, Japan. So every 2 to 3 years, you are looking at a new place to live, and that can be kind of cool if you want to travel, move around. My family loves to move around. At about 2 to 3 years, we start to get the itch, like, where can we go next? We're kind of lucky right now. We're in San Diego, and we really like it. My wife is kind of on the fence right now. She's like, I don't want to leave San Diego, but I kind of do. So some people may not like that. So if you really like to be stable and not move around a lot, you don't like to be displaced every 2 to 3 years, then maybe the Navy may not be a good spot for you, because you graduate med school, the Navy is going to want to move you from where you went to medical school to where you're going to do your training. Depending on if you do a year training there or you do your internship and you go straight through. So let's say you get picked for a medicine residency, internal medicine. So that's 3 years. So you're there for 3 years. You finish your training. The Navy wants you to go to an aircraft carrier. Let's say you do your training in Bethesda, Maryland, or Portsmouth, Virginia. We have a training hospital there. You do an internal medicine internship and residency in Portsmouth, Virginia, but they want to send you to an aircraft carrier in San Diego, California. Now you got to move from one coast of the country to the other. Or let's say you do a family practice residency at Camp Pendleton Hospital. We have a hospital here on the Marine Corps base in Camp Pendleton here, just north of San Diego, California. You finish your family medicine residency training, and then the Navy, they want you to go to Camp Lejeune, California, to support a group of Marines on the other side of the country in North Carolina. So if you're not really big on moving or being displaced every 2 to 3 years, I would say that's a con. But if you like to move around, you like to see the world, I would say that's a pro. It just depends on how you see it.
Yeah, so it's really that people who are more adventurous, it's probably a good fit for. If you like the stability, it's probably not quite as good. Again, I just want to reiterate, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop those into Facebook or to YouTube. I'll do one final question. You mentioned the physical requirements. What are those requirements look like, as far as what kind of shape do you need to be in to be a naval officer?
So in the Navy, right, when I joined, we would have to do 2 what they call physical readiness tests. And based on your age and your gender, male or female, there are requirements for push-ups. Back then it was sit-ups. You had to reach and touch your toes, and you had to run or swim or do the bike. These days it's very different. Now it's 1 physical readiness test a year. The pandemic changed everything, and it allowed the Navy to kind of update things. You still have different standards for men and women in uniform in the Navy, and they're based on age. So the younger you are, the more stringent the requirements. But as you get older, the requirements are not as strict for the number of push-ups you have to do, or the number. Now it's a plank. So there's no more sit-ups. You got to do a plank. I think the maximum is 2 minutes, and the minimum is 90 seconds. I think it could be a minute. So my physical readiness test that I got to do once a year is I got to be able to do anywhere from, I want to say, 25 push-ups. For my age, I'm 45. Don't tell anybody. I'm 45 years old. So I can do anywhere from the minimum, I believe it's 25 push-ups. And the max is 78. So it's based on my age and my gender. A female, 45 years old, would probably have to do a significantly less number of push-ups, just because women don't have as much upper body strength. So the expectation is that you not have to do 20 some odd push-ups. I think it's 10 or 12. The plank for me, the maximum is 3 minutes. I think they've lowered that to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And I think the minimum, I believe, is 90 seconds. And then for the cardio portion of the physical readiness test, the Navy, you can run it, and you have to do 1.5 miles in 12 minutes. you can bike, and it's an indoor bicycle, and that one's based on your height and your weight, and it's resistance based, but you got to burn a certain amount of calories in 12 minutes. But the Navy just introduced a row cardio portion for the physical readiness test, and that one you do the row machine. I've not done that, but I believe that's also based on your weight and how many calories you can burn in 12 minutes.
Okay.
Or maybe it's distance. I don't know the specifics of that, but you can do a run, you can do a bike, you can do the row, or you can swim for the cardio portion of the physical readiness test. So right now it's push-ups, a plank, and the cardio portion, and you can have an option. I do the bike because it's predictable for me. I can adjust the settings, I can watch TV, I can listen to music, and I go 12 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think rowing would be harder than running.
No, I think for rowing, you gotta I think if you're gonna do the row, you should probably just figure it out ahead of time and condition yourself, so you're not surprised on day one. Same thing with the run, but the run you can do. I believe the run is outside, and there's just a lot of factors there that I'm not a fan of. Maybe if you're in Maryland and you're running in October, maybe it's cold and rainy. Here, if I do the bike, it's inside. I can control a lot more things. So those are the physical readiness tests requirements. There is the physical like a weight requirement, and they measure your height, and then they weigh you, and then they do your BMI, and then if you're above a certain standard for your height and weight, they will tape you. So I don't know too much of that because I've never been taped, but I do know that once a year, it used to be twice a year, they'd measure my height, and then they would measure my weight to see if I was within physical body standards. But other than that, I don't know much else about that.
Okay. We did have one question that popped up that was about if you're in the Navy Reserve and the moves. You mentioned the moves and moving around as much. Yes. If you're in the reserves, that's not really a factor as much, is it?
No, the reserves, I believe it's you got to do 1 weekend a month, and then once a year they activate you for 2 weeks, and then you go work with your unit. With the reserves, though, there is a risk of deployment. I know during the first and second Gulf Wars, a lot of the units who deployed, they were reserve units. So you train, you're 1 weekend a month, you're 2 weeks a year, you train, and then that's basically what you do in terms of training. And then the reserves, they do have a physical fitness test, but I think it's also once or twice a year. But that's the whole moving piece, permanent change of station, what they call a PCS. That's not a part of the reserve training. No.
Okay. So that would be a different. And does the Naval Reserve, did they do any kind of emergency response type activities as well, like hospital ships to earthquake zones, things like that?
Yes, but right now I believe the hospital ships are staffed out of the coastal hospitals. So Naval Medical Center Portsmouth does the Comfort, and and then Naval Medical Center Balboa does Mercy out of the West. There is a chance for reservists to be activated to work on those boats, but the platforms, my understanding is those are staffed out of the house, out of the medical treatment facilities on the coast. So Portsmouth on the East Coast, Balboa on the West Coast. Okay. But there are some platforms that are depending on where the ship is going, they'll pull from Mercy out west, they'll pull from Naval Medical Center Naval Health Clinic Lemoore out of Lemoore, California, or other smaller areas. Okay. Yeah. If they need a certain specialty, like if they need a preventive medicine corpsman, or if they need a family practice doctor, those will get pulled out of Pendleton Hospital or Lejeune Hospital or Health Clinic Lemoore. It just depends on what they need. But the main platforms are Balboa and Portsmouth. Okay.
And then just to kind of wrap up, if anybody has any last chance to get some questions in, but if people have more questions, if they want to learn more, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say the best way to do that is to review the PowerPoint that we just did, because that's got the major bullets for the programs. But if you really do have more questions, I think the best way to do it is to contact one of the the health professions recruiters, the talent acquisition group. But if you have specific questions about like residency training, what it's like, what the options are, where you can go, the talent acquisition group can probably put you in touch with someone like myself, and we can answer specifics about training, things like that.
Okay, and is there like an email or something, or is it on here? I can bring back up the slide here.
QR code?
Yeah. So use is this
Yeah.
QR code is what they
Yeah.
should use? Okay, great.
Um,
So if people do have additional questions about the different programs that are available, or interest, or want to talk to someone more about it, then you can use that QR code.
yes.
And any last thoughts that you want to share?
I would just say that like the Navy, I don't know how the other services do it, but for the Navy, I know that recruitment is based on is based on region. So I know that there's like a talent acquisition group for recruiting in San Diego. There's one in like Los Angeles. Me, myself, when I did my HPSP program, I was recruited out of the Chicago area, even though I was going to school in Philadelphia. I grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, born and raised in Wisconsin. So my recruiting area was Chicago. So I was recruited out of the Midwest, even though I went to school in the Mid-Atlantic. So you may, I don't know where the QR code is going to take you, but they may route you to an area that's closer to where you live.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for providing such great information and letting us know about what options are available to help pay for medical school. And I believe too, as well, even if you're not looking for medical school, I believe dental is also something that can be covered by some of these scholarships as well. Yeah. Correct?
Navy does have a dental program that is structured similarly to my program.
Okay.
Question scholarships, yes.
Okay, and so I presume that if someone's interested in dental, they could scan this QR code and then get pointed to the right person potentially.
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you very much, Dr. Vega. We appreciate your time. I'm sure you're busy with a little one in the home, so
yes.
I appreciate you taking the time to answer questions and to join us today. And we hope people have gotten some good information about options for serving their country and getting their medical school paid for.
Well, it's a great way to do both, and it's totally okay to say, I want the money. Totally okay.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody, and have a good rest of your day.
Hey, thanks so much out here.